This episode of the Music Production Podcast is sponsored by Koji, the world's most powerful link in bio for musicians, with over 200 free-to-use link in bio mini apps. Grow your social media following, build your email lists, get your music heard, and make money in minutes, all with Koji's easy-to-use mini apps. Collect tips, sell Cameo-type video greetings, stream your playlists, sell your merch, sell locked photos and videos, run giveaways, create and sell NFTs, crowdfund a new album or tour, and more, all in one place. It's free to use, no subscription fees, no upgrades required for extra customization or to sell files and to access analytics. It's free. So do your music career a favor and join over 180,000 who are finding success with Koji. It's easy. Head to koji.to/music production podcast. That's Koji, KOJI.to/music production podcast and get your free Koji account today. How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk. On today's show, I have Roy Perez, who is a musician, producer, DJ, engineer. He's a trainer. He's a fellow Ableton certified trainer. And we hooked up through our Ableton Live trainer, little network there. And we're going to just talk shop. I think originally it was like an MPE thing we were going to talk about. Before we even started doing this conversation, we started talking about a million other things too. So we had to hit record before we had the whole show, before we recorded it. So, Roy, thanks so much for taking the time to be here. It's great to have you. Great to meet you.
For sure. Happy to be here, Brian. Yeah, I'm very happy to meet you too and have this chance to chat with you a little bit today. And yeah, I think when we talked before at the Corona time, like in the quarantine or whatever it was, I felt that you and I have things like in common in terms of sound design and these nerdy aspects of sound. And I thought that it would be really, really nice to have a chat with you, actually. So I'm happy for today.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a great YouTube, which I would say people should go check out. Roy's YouTube.
Thank you.
Some really nice tutorials, some performances, and some nice stuff there to, I get inspired when I watch your stuff. And there's long form stuff that you have where you go really deep into detail on some of like live synthesizers. And then you've got the quicker stuff too when you just want something fast. And I like that mixture, because sometimes you got time, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, for sure. I think thing is many of my videos are very, very long. And this follows something that I did at the lockdown when I just took a synth like analog or operator. I think this was the first synth that I took. And I thought about limiting myself to just this synth and try to create a song using only this synth online while streaming, putting myself into this corner of having to do something nice. I didn't really limit the time. I didn't really think how long it's going to take. I was really open for it. But I knew I wanted to sound good. And I knew I need to improvise. And it's going to be a bit stressy because people are going to look at me. Which happened, and it was so much fun. This tense, I felt like in a show where I have to prove myself, and it made me learn a lot more about the synths that I was using. And it was a little bit like DJing and producing, and like having people watching you, and you know that they're watching, and you're not alone, but you only have this synth. So everything that you're going to do is just this tool. And it forces us, it forced me to do something nice and to try to make it musical. And then I went ahead and made it with analog and with wavetable and with sampler and simpler. It was just a journey. It was a sound design journey. And I had so much fun. This is how it started.
When you go live like that, you suddenly get like this kind of focus too, because you can't just like stop and like go check Facebook or something, or decide I'm going to go
drink something.
Read a book in the middle, or watch a video or there's so many ways we kind of distract ourselves to try to avoid the work when it gets tough. But when you're on the spotlight there and people might be watching and you're recording it and you're live, it gives you that focus and reminds you, keep going. And I love that you put that limitation of just the one device, because it forces you to really see what it's capable of.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what's funny is I sat on the chair like normally I don't sit so long. You know, I do stuff, and it's like you're saying, I'm going to scrolling, and it's Facebook, and it's other stuff other than doing what you have to do. And I actually read about this type of thing, which is something that we want to do. We want to be distracted. This is something that we feel the urge to do. We want to go out of this thing that we're doing in order to refresh our brain and then come back. So if you're trying to fight it, it's something natural. You know, it's something that like it's not there's something wrong with you or you're lazy or anything. It's just your brain is looking for this type of things that will take you out of these focus things that you're doing. And it's like you're saying, I was online and I was live and I was streaming. And I was sitting and I didn't even notice the time. And in the time I got up, it was 4.5 hours or something. And my whole body was like aching I didn't even feel the pain while sitting there. It was so tensed and I was so pumped. And at the end, something came out. It was a song. I actually made everything with this one synth. You know, it was like drums, bass, everything. And it was like a story. There was a story there. Yeah.
One of the problems I think we have is we have too many choices. And I can find myself saying, which synths should I use? Which sound? Which preset? Which knob should I turn? What? Maybe I'll try something else. That didn't work. I'll put a different kick. I have 9,000 kicks to choose from. Let's see how they all sound. And you do all these things that aren't really making music. But when you put yourself in the corner, that's a great idea.
Exactly. That was exactly my issue. And also with the people I teach, I hear it a lot, you know, where should I start? I mean, this fear of the blank page, you know, like where should I start? Or I never finish my songs, or I can never reach like the end goal. People that are stuck, I think most of us feel a bit stuck sometimes. And I think it's like you're saying, it's really because we have too many choices. You can go anywhere you want. And because you can go anywhere you want, you don't go anywhere. And that's a problem. And I think the solution is to limit yourself and to say, hey, I have only this, and I'm going to do everything I'm doing just with this thing. And it can be whatever. I think it all started when we did this one sample thing. I don't know if you participate. We had a few trainers. I think we were 5, 6, 7. I don't even remember. With Laura, I think it was also. We took one sample. I think it was my idea to take one sample and to make a song out of one sample. And everyone said, okay, then bring us a sample. And I brought just like a djembe, like the most short thing I could find, which was like a boop. And people made amazing things. Wow, I was blown away. With the things that they did. And yeah, it's also on my SoundCloud. We can maybe give a link to our listeners or viewers that they can have a listen to it. The one sample challenge was amazing, and we did few of these challenges at this time. We also made like an online collaboration. I don't know if you remember or you saw it.
I remember that. Yeah. That was so much fun. Passed around, right? Like one person did something. Exactly. That was so much fun. And we had Pedro in Brazil, and we had Marcelo also there in the other side of Brazil. And then we had Christian in Mexico, and it was so many corners of the world. And it was, wow. And it was really cool. And because we gave ourselves a week to create a song, and we limit ourselves just to use those parts, really nice things. I was really happy with the songs that I made, like this type of remix, and it was such a great thing to be a part of. I was so happy about it. Yeah, really great experience. There's a Twitter account called Music Weekly's Challenges, and I had Tyne Schenk from she's like one of the people that organize it. And the idea is they give you some sort of prompt or something to challenge you to make music, and you have a week to do it. So they asked me to do one, and my idea was to gather a few samples that I had on like old projects that I didn't finish and just whatever things. And I gave those out. And I think it was like acoustic guitar, bass, drums, and, you know, playing chords, it was melodic. And I couldn't believe the stuff people were doing where I'm like, I would never know you used these samples. Like the way you took these things and manipulated them and changed them around, like I could listen to the song and never know that those are sounds I recorded. Like,
yeah, wow.
what people do and the creativity when they have, because they're stuck, they have to make it with these sounds.
Yes.
And amazing things happen when we're stuck and when we're not allowed to just reach for anything in the world. We have to only reach for the things in front of us.
But it's not stuck though, it's limited.
Right.
That's even better, you know?
Yeah.
Because stuck, you're stuck and you have a problem. Limited is actually, to be limited, it's a blessing in a way, because you have these boundaries which gives you focus. And once you have focus, then you can reach everything in life, I think. And once you are out of focus, you can't reach anything, because you're you have so many things you can go to, so many places you can go to. I think that's focus is the key, you know, actually, in my opinion. And I just want to tell you that because you gave them the samples, you gave them some themes. You know, the most of the problem, as I see it with most of my students, is this blank page. It's the nothing. You know, never ending story. No, the nothing, and the blank page, because it's blank and you don't have anything there, it's harder to just start and do something sometimes for some people. And if you give them some samples, this is, for example, why I really like remixing, because you have a theme there, you have something going, you have some colors that you can play with, you know, and it's take a little bit of the responsibility that you have to just bring something from nothing. And it gives you some kind of a concept which you can start from. And this is something that I also tell people that ask me, should I use samples? Is it legit? Is it something that I should even do? Because I really want to be original. And I think you just need to use it as raw materials and look at it like an original thing which you can then twist and change and give your personality into it, you know? And I mean, or even the use of presets. I mean, a piano is a preset after all, right?
Right.
And how many songs do we have with the piano, which sounds very different from one another? So, to have some kind of a theme, it's a really cool and important thing. And this is something that you can even do alone. You don't need even you don't need anyone to bring you something, like to hand you some theme. You can even think about it alone. You know, you can even have one word. You can even think on one word and have associations coming out of these words, and then draw some sounds from these words that you collected, which is also a nice exercise that I do in my school. I give people just one word, and they need to connect the dots and to build the whole story. And this is the song. You know, we have actually a course called Tell Your Story, which is about telling stories in with sound, and that's the way we do it. Like, it's limiting yourself, focusing yourself, and finding those themes in order to not feel lost and to feel that you have some point which you can develop a storyline from there. Because songs are stories, you know, like. Music is just a sort of communication that we have through sound, and being able to control sound and do stuff with sound like we can do with live. I think it's magic. It's a blessing that we have, that we can do it. It's really cool.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that course too.
Yeah, thanks. Cool.
I'm happy that you say it's okay to use samples as a drummer, because you're a drummer, and we were talking a little bit. You played in jazz bands, so I think, and me as a musician too, as a guitar player, right? Like, I think initially I did have this thing where, like, wait, you're just gonna take a beat and just stick that in your project and make a song on that? Like, isn't that cheating? Like, that's not right. But then I think back and I'm like, well, you know what? When I was starting off, I had this Casio keyboard that had the built-in rhythms.
Yeah.
You know? And I would always use those. in my songs, and I never thought of it as I'm using a sample. As soon as you throw the word sample on things, I think people get uptight because there's has been controversy in the past over sampling and all that. But to think of it as like raw material, and it really, what is the difference if you're using a piano or a preset on Serum or a preset of an audio effect even, like you've got a guitar pedal that does an effect. What's the difference?
No one really cares, actually. They don't care. Your listeners, they don't care. How did you make this kick? How did you make this bass line? Did you use Serum? Was it Spire? Was it built-in core library devices? Was it this? Was it that? They don't care. They just see or hear the song as a body, as one, as something. And most of the people don't even separate the sounds or the instruments. They just get it as just one thing.
Yeah.
And as a composer, you're organizing sounds. This is what you're actually doing. So if you organized loops or organized just one-shots or organized presets, at the end, it needs to be a song. And if it's a song, it's because of the way that you organized everything there, and then it's yours. In my opinion, it's yours. You know, even if it's a beat that you laid stuff on this beat, but the whole concept matters. The song is the purpose, in my opinion, not the specific sounds. It's not, it's not the way that we got there. It's what we achieved at the end, which needs to be musical. And if it's musical, if people like it, you can't really say anything about it. That's it. If you touch someone, that's actually the definition of a good song. A song which touches many people as possible, which makes them feel something. If someone feels something hearing your song, then you did it. That's it. It needs to be emotional, and I don't mean sad or like very heavy or something. It needs to have some sort of a feeling. It can be happiness. It can be frightness. It can be it can be many things, but it needs to be emotional. It needs to touch the heart in a sense, and to move us in some way, which will be it's funny, but it will be human, because it will touch us, and then we will get this feedback and we will feel something. Then it's human, and this is magic. And actually, music doesn't really have any explanation. We don't really know why we have it, actually, which is really interesting. There is no explanation for music. Why do we have it? We're having fun with it. There is music for war, music for parties, but why do we have this thing, music? Why? We're not living out of it. It's not like food. We don't really need it to survive. So why do we have it through all these years? It's really interesting.
It is interesting. And
why do you think we have it, Brian? Why do you think we have music?
I don't know. But you made me think of like two things that have happened in my life. One was today, and one was when I was a kid. I remember going to listen to some music when I was a kid, and I was young. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I remember I was like mad or angry or upset about something. And I put the music on, put the radio on or whatever, and I heard some song, and I remember I wasn't sad or angry anymore. And I came out of my room after just one song as a totally different person. And I couldn't understand how that happened. I was like, I listened to this song and it changed me. What happened? Where did this happen? So it was an early experience that made me understand that there's some power there.
For sure.
I had another experience today in a classroom of ninth grade English students, so high school English. And I think I just started pounding on the desk to try to get their attention, and like the kind of like we will rock you beat, boom, boom, pop, boom, and they're a rowdy bunch. So a couple of them joined in, and then started singing the melody, la 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 la. And
really,
everyone's just doing this, and I stopped, and they're just going, and it's like it got passed to them, and there was this really cool like thing happening where everyone's like kind of looking around like, what's going on? Why is this happening? and it was like this like early human tribal like thing.
Ritual thing. Ritual.
Yeah, everybody just like felt it. And it was just a cool moment. It was like a minute long that this happened.
Unbelievable.
But
unbelievable.
Yeah,
really.
why? I couldn't tell you. It's just, we just feel it. It's below language, on like our brain's hierarchy of complicated thinking and all that. It's really like almost animalistic.
Dude, I'm a huge fan from the influence of music and sound on our brain. This is something that I'm really, really, really interested in. And I investigate it, and I have many friends in the fields and psychologists. And I think first of all, it's really interesting, and it's also inspiring. And I think for you as a music maker, to know about these things while you create music, and to know that you have the power to influence people, and if you will, to manipulate them, I mean it in a good way, to make them do something while you're constructing a song. You can, in the song, you can put so many narrative and so many stories and so many cool things there, which can actually change the world. I believe music can change the world, and it can. Let's face it. If you look at people like Hendrix, if you look at people like Pink Floyd, like Zeppelin, all of these guys, the stuff that they brought to the world, and then when you go through. If you look at all the successful people through time, music-wise, like musicians, you will see that all of them brought a new sound to the world, and which was I think the biggest benefit to their success. They brought new sound. I don't mean that they were like the first one who invented it. In some cases, other people invented it too, but they had the chance to get public with it. And like, if you look at the Beatles, they had all the money in the world to just go and create, and they had like the best studio. And there is a really famous stories about Lennon, that every time he came to the studio to record a song, he told the technicians there, hey, I want to do something different today. I don't want to use the same mic. And they gave him every time a new microphone, and they were looking for new sounds and new tactics and new ways to sound design, basically, And I think this is mind-blowing. And they were 21 or 20, the people that worked there, man. Which is even, wow. There are so many cool stories about this era. And they held because they had all the money in the world, all the equipment that they could have, and they just went. And I feel this makes me like appreciate them even more. That they were not like, okay, we were successful with this album and we had a formula and everything is great. Let's continue do the same thing. And we're going to just get success with it. No, they were looking, exploring. They went to India and they went to so many places to try to get new sound, which is so interesting. When you look at it, they weren't just a rock band.
Yeah. And I think also just because there really was no band like the Beatles before that was that big. Maybe we had like Elvis, we had some rock stars, but the band, and that they're writing their own songs. And like you said, they didn't just keep doing the same thing. So they kind of like set the precedent of like, do something different. Let's try something new. So they made everyone stay on their toes and everyone changing. And that became part of what it was to be in a band and be songwriters, is to evolve and change and explore.
Yes.
Just that thinking alone is important for the development of music and art and culture, everything.
Yeah. What's interesting though, in these people, this is why I really like to look at like old school music. I always try to look back, what inspired them? Mm-hmm. How did they came to what they came? Because they had ideas based on something they heard before. And I know that the Beatles really looked up to the Stones. And they thought, hey, they're really cool. These guys are cool. The music that they're doing, that they're making are really, really cool. And they were the Beatles, and all these haircuts and all these things. Like, they were really inspired from those people. Like, I know that the Stones were really inspired by blues players, like Afro blues players, like guitarists, like Muddy Waters, stuff like that. And it gave a lot to their music. So it's really interesting to see the inspiration for the people that you like, for the bands that you like. See what inspired them. Try to get this first-hand inspiration and interpret it to your own creativity, and try to absorb this and to try to bring something new. It can be a little bit frightening when you think about it, like something new, but we all have different things that we can say. We are different people. The fact that there are no two people alike, look how many people we have in the world. They're all different. So each and every one of them have a story, have something to tell. And this is why I believe that each and every one of them can bring new sounds to the world. They just need to know how to do it. They need to have the technicality. They need to have the possibility. They need to have a little bit of know-how, but they can do it. They have a voice. And if they will concentrate in making music, I really think the world will be a better place if many people as possible will create music instead of doing other things. I think it will really make things better. That's actually my mission in life, to bring it to many people as possible and to empower them through music and sound. And
That's
I really think we can do it. Yeah.
That's a gift to give people. It's great advice to check out your influences. And when I first got into the Beatles, late teens or so, I've discovered them, and I'd always known of the Beatles, but I knew the songs. But then after a while, I was like, hey, that's the same band? That's them again? I started being like, holy cow, like all these old songs that I'm listening to. And you listen to what they did, and it's mind-blowing. But then you read the interviews, and they're just like, well, that's just borrowed from this. Chuck Berry was doing this. I'm singing like Elvis here. And you start realizing that what seems like magical and mystical and amazing, like forces of the universe coming together, is just the little things they picked up on along the way. And it starts to seem like a little more attainable, because you say, hey, Jimi Hendrix didn't just pull this out of nowhere. He had his own influences. And of course, I'm not trying to take away from what any of these people have done, because it's some of my favorite stuff ever, but it does come from somewhere. And when you realize that, I think it helps you see like, oh, well, I can put my own things together. And it, to me, might seem real simple, because I knew what the ingredients were in the stew, but the person that eats the stew is like, oh, this is really delicious. This is a unique flavor I haven't had before.
Absolutely. And also they were inspired, which means they interpreted it. Like it was cooking in their heads, and that's the way they felt about it. And then you hear it. So there was some kind of processing that they did in their brain, like the filter through John Lennon and McCartney, which came about to be these beautiful songs that they wrote. So I'm happy that they had influences, because it just made them more, let's say, full with ideas, and it gave them so many colors that they could play with. But then go to Mozart. Mozart was a huge fan of the Italian composers, and they were actually jealous at him. So it's just a circle. If you just go back, it's so interesting to go back and see how it was interpreted and how it went on and on and on and on. And then we have bands like Massive Attack and Prodigy, which for example, it's a band, and I really like the Prodigy. I like them a lot. But I discovered that the albums that I like so much are 90% loops. They didn't really change much. Made them really fast, a little bit slow, and it was like times when it was okay to just take a sample from a famous song and run it in reverse, and it's cool, And people knew that they're doing it. And it was okay, because they were like, they gave it an interesting and really cool interpretation. And I think the people that were featured in their albums were proud to be featured in those albums. And they felt like, wow, how nice. Which today is like, it would be like a huge lawsuit, and they might got clearance on that. I'm not sure. But 90% of this album, like if you look on all of their successful ones, even the Firestarter and all of those. This is like one-to-one sample of some song. They just ran a little bit faster and some distortion, and that's it. And that's the hook. And they used it, yeah. And of course, they sing and dance and do all their things, which is mind blowing. But for me, the prodigy was just, there are a few milestones. Let's talk about milestones in our life in terms of music, like bands that you heard or producers that you heard that blew your mind in such a way that you felt your brain changes. Did you had this kind of experience?
Oh, like
that you heard it and you were never the same? Like,
sure.
Which one?
I mean, the Beatles definitely did that 11,000 times in my mind, over and over, and at different periods in my life. Nirvana did that. A lot of that 90s rock. Yeah. That's when I was a teenager in the 90s, so I was into that. When I first heard the first Weezer record, I was like, wow. I never heard like the melody come together with the guitars and everything quite that way. I was blown away, and that really affected me. Yeah, then hearing like some electronic stuff that I like, Nine Inch Nails, and I really liked like when Washed Out came out and Neon Indian came out. Was really cool to hear like a more synthesizer rock with this lo-fi thing going on. And even just recently in the last few years, like the Cars, going back listening to them from not only the perspective of now I'm into synthesizers, which I wasn't when I was younger and I liked them, to hear all the synth parts, but then also as a guitar player to really appreciate the guitarist and the song. Yeah, like the songwriting. I mean, everything, like the Cars, you'll get me off on a tangent, you know? But so many of those things, the Beach Boys, when I first heard Pet Sounds, Radiohead, OK Computer, like,
yes,
like your mind explodes and it makes you want to just go do music and use what you just heard somehow in your own stuff.
I think it's amazing. Each and every one of the names that you just named, they all have different sound. They all brought like new sound to the world in a way, in a sense. I mean, Trent Reznor, and like they all brought. There still are pioneers. You know, brought something new. I don't know if you know about Ninja Tune. It's a label in England. And they have, there is a guy, DJ Food. If you don't know him, you should check him out. I really felt, and it was in the 90s, I think 95 or something. I never heard something like that.
DJ Food? Like,
yes, and like the album is called Kaleidoscope.
Okay.
That's the name of the album. And it was called DJ Food because it was supposed to be samples for DJs to just play with, and the guy called himself like that, and then made albums after albums after albums. Nice. And the Kaleidoscope album, just I really felt my brain changes while I was hearing it, you know, because we have plasticity in the brain. The brain changes all the time and evolves. And I remember I felt like this is like a new moment, like I discovered something huge. And this was times when I didn't do so much production. I was more into live playing, but I think this is what was one of the reasons that I was drawn more into synths and to try to create sound myself. And it was mind-blowing. Miles Davis too. Milestones, that's a really, really good album, like fast jazz. Blew my mind, really. And I think it's really important to hear like a vast different kinds of music. If you like rock, go and hear Latin, go and hear dub, look for reggae, look for African music, look for the things which are the opposite of what you normally will hear. And I mean, if you're someone who makes music and you want to have new ideas, really look for things which are not in your instinct to look for. You know, if you like rock, look for something else. Look for classic, look for jazz, look for like places you've never been before, just like Star Trek. You know, look for new stars.
Yeah.
And you will discover amazing new colors. Even if you don't like it, nobody asks you to like it. Like, just listen to what they have to say and see what you can take out of it. It might be a cool bass line. It might be the way the arrangement is built. It might be their whole approach to sound. You can take so much just by listening to stuff, but really listening, like sitting there and absorbing and try to separate the different colors of sound, and then go back to your studio and then just spill out things that you heard and try to make sense in your own words to whatever that was there. That's brilliant. That's the power of music, man.
Yeah, I find these days I can almost enjoy anything, just because even if it's something I actually don't even like this song, but I can say like the production's interesting, or the groove is neat, or the way they process the vocals. Like, there's just always something. If you decide to look for it, you'll find it. You get something interesting. And absolutely. Like you said, going to your influences is a great way. It happened recently in getting into this Cars kick I've been on for a while, listening to the guitar player and like learning his solos and listening to interviews with him, Elliot Easton, talking about like country guitar playing. And I was like, yeah, that little part, like in My Best Friend's Girl. It's a very like country kind of type of rockabilly guitar, and so it got me listening to like a lot of country music that I'm not really so much into, but I love the guitar playing. It's just so fun and so interesting bends, and it just opens a whole world. And then now I'm like on YouTube, I get all these like country picking, chicken picking guitar stuff coming up.
Chicken picking.
And I'm like, this is so cool. Like it's like guitar slinging.
Absolutely.
It's a much different style than I've used to playing.
And the fusions, then you can really make sense out of the fusions that you're hearing. Yeah. For example, I saw a video of Phil X, that's the guitarist of Bon Jovi. And he is madness, like on the guitar. And then you realize that he actually learned bouzouki as a kid, So that's like...
Is that the violin?
No, it's like a tiny guitar. You should look it up. Like a tiny guitar. It has, I think, 12 strings or something, very tiny, and it's Greek. So it's very, very fast. And he is applying those techniques, which some of them are really ridiculous to play on a guitar, and it's not like traditional scales, which you might hear. But there is the element of surprise there, which really catches the ear. Once you hear it, and it gives you the concept that you already know, and then brings a twist in there. This is, for example, one of the reasons I really like Slash, for example, because he's playing blues, and then he can give you these half tones of something oriental, and then he goes back to pentatonic, and you didn't expect that because you're in a rock song. But this twist. It's intriguing for you as a listener. It's for your brain. Your brain is like, I didn't expect that. Right. And I think we're triggered to look for surprises. It's something to do with our survival modus. Yeah. If you have only the things that you know about, then you feel safer. That's also something to do with. This is also something that I teach about in arrangement, in people that are trying to build their arrangement and how to build arrangement. You need to keep stuff which repeating themselves in order to keep the listener engaged. He or she, they are getting engaged because they have things that they already understand and know that are in the song. For example, like kick 4 on the floor, we put it there, and it's like some kind of building blocks of the whole song in a sense. And you don't really change the kick. The kick stays tam, 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 the hi-hat as well. And then you're building the bass line, which also doesn't change too much. And this is like your foundation of the song. And because you repeat it in many cases, it's like you let the listener feel, hey, you're in a known environment. Everything is cool and you can be safe. And then when you bring the melody and you change and twist stuff in the melody, then it's become risky in a sense. And it's getting more interesting for the listener. If you overdo it, it might feel let's say, over risky, but then it will become stressy. And if it's stressy, then you don't really feel pleasant to hear the song. So in the song, you're playing between known and unknown, and surprised and familiar. And this is really interesting, like to build concepts of music and then to give them to people and see how they react to it. And I also had the chance, because I'm also a DJ, I had the chance of making songs and then play them to people, like let's say 6,000, 7,000 people, and see them react to something that I made just alone in my studio. And this is like one of the most, like the most hyped feeling that I had. And then you really feel the magic of music. You really feel that you can really move people, and to get these things from them back while playing what you did, it's something really spiritual, let's say. So this is it's really come together to this ritual that you met before with the class. Maybe we need it because of rituals, because of religious rituals, and we needed rituals to keep us together as tribes. So maybe music was a sense of communication, because each tribe has its own songs. So maybe that was the reason for that. But we consume it as just for fun too.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I mean,
there's like actual vibrations. It is a physical thing that's happening especially when you got the loud music coming out of the big speakers for thousands of people.
Yes.
It's physically affecting your body. It's touching you. It's moving through you. And it's
absolutely
hard to deny. It's a test, honestly, for my own music when I'm making music. This desk I'm at is actually one of those standing desks that'll move up and down. So
cool.
A lot of times I like to just... They're great, right? Because
I love it so much,
As a guitar player, I always got to stand up when I played, right? So you're dancing around, and when it feels good, you're moving. Sometimes sitting in the seat, you like lose the feeling and the energy and the groove. So I like to sometimes just stand up, and it's like a test. If I start moving, that's good. If I'm not moving, like something's wrong. So you literally let that physical sensation take over, and if you're moving, something right is happening, and I find it just keeps me going, and it brings a different energy to what I do.
Absolutely.
But it's touching you, quite literally, not on the figurative emotional level. It's this pressure of the air is touching you.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of using headphones while making music, because nowadays you're at home, and if you have kids and you're making music and it's quiet and it's nights, and I got used to make music and mix music and everything like with headphones, and I have the Sennheiser 650, which are really great. I really love them. I can only recommend them. But I had a really long discussion with friends of mine who is a really, really kick-ass mixer in London. And he's working with Sony, EMI, and all of those guys. And then we talked about mixing with headphones. And then I told him, because we talked about the speakers and headphones and such. And my opinion was, hey, you can mix everything with headphones. You need to get used to, obviously you need to get used to the way they sound, and then you can anticipate how it's going to sound in the world outside. And what he said, it was like, you can never mix with headphones, because the headphones cannot touch you like the speaker can. They can never create those sound waves, those deep ones that touches you. It's not even about hearing. Right. It's about this feeling that you get in your stomach when you hear those 30, 20, 10 hertz, which you do need to feel. And it was really interesting talk with him. I didn't really see it like that, because you have what you hear, and what you hear is that, but what you feel, that's another story. And it comes to what you said, that it vibrates and touches you, and it's so interesting.
Have you ever tried the sub pack?
Which one?
Sub pack? It's like it's like a vest you wear, or it goes on your
I
chin,
heard about it. Yeah,
I've heard people say great things about it. I've never tried it
Really?
either. But, I love putting on the headphones because it really does like immerse you in the world and you shut everything else out. Because, if something happens, my dogs start barking, I'll hear that and it'll pull me out of the moment. And sometimes it's a good thing, something might be going on. But it is nice to just like be lost in there.
Isolated.
Yeah. But a lot of people, I think especially like people that are making music that really relies on the sub, the bass, dance music and stuff. Really, I've heard a lot of really good things about those little backpacks you wear that actually vibrate.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. Yeah, I
haven't tried it yet. I would love to get a sense of that because, that is like one of the great things when you go to a concert or you get even in front of your PA if you're practicing and just you feel it. That's exhilarating. It's
absolutely
playing in a band.
You see, that's another
the bass player and man, like that feeling physically is a different level. It's something to that.
So here is another effect of music. So it's not just what you hear; it's also what you feel. You need to touch you, but you need to feel it because let's face it, there is no feeling like going to a concert. It's like you're saying, and you have those loud speakers. They just touch you, and that's But I came to great results mixing with headphones, and because you also look at meters, and I combine looking and hearing, and I already know my speakers and know my headphones, but I don't think there are any rules to anything in the world. The rules are something. It's like consumptions. It's like let's say it's like something agreed upon,
right?
Which you can always have a look at it this way or that way. If you can come to great results using what you have, nobody can. Then you can really come to new things. If you will say, okay, I know I have this thing and this is how I should do it. Now let's try to do it differently. We also have a course called Master Your Sound, which is mixing and mastering the Ableton Live. And we talk there about things which are out of the ordinary. Let's say Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of. You have full-on chorus on the bass. Which chorus on the bass is something like, if I will put chorus on the bass, I'm taking the bass from the middle. I'm just putting it on the side. It might take the meat from the song, but they did it. They did it, and it's like one of the symbols of this song. The bass, you remember it. First of all, because you didn't have so many basses with chorus before, and it fitted. And someone said, you know what? I'm going to put chorus on the bass. I don't care. And because they did it, you have this amazing song. Of course, the song has the lyrics and everything inside there, but it's a huge part of it. So much that it's playing alone in the intro. If you remember, you have the thing there with the guitar, and then the bass has, I think, 8 bars alone, just the bass with this massive chorus. And thinking out of the box, know the rules and then just break them and just be wild, get crazy, take a distortion and crank the shit, and then just see what happens. Go beyond, just go beyond, and don't feel like, oh, I shouldn't do that because someone said that it's not really appropriate, or normally people don't really do it. That's great. If they normally don't do it, then you discovered a new room here. Go explore and see if you can make sense out of it. I think that's why we're here, actually. We need to take stuff and to bring them forward, and not to do the same. There are no formulas.
Yeah, our rules.
The stuff that
it's like this works a lot of the time. This is a pretty good way to work about things. This is something we do because it usually works. That's how I kind of see them. I think I agree with you totally. Break the rules, because two things are going to happen basically. Number one, you are going to realize why it's a rule and understand it better because it totally didn't work. Or you're going to find something interesting that people aren't doing, that might give you your own sound, that might give you your own style. It might be the little thing that catches on. that might just be the thing that inspires you. Like, yeah, you know what? I really like the way this weird bass sounds all stereo and, it's against the rules, but it has a vibe. The creator economy is exploding, and there's never been a better time to grow a passionate fan base to earn an income from music you love to make. In the past, this meant the huge headache of creating accounts on tons of different apps and platforms just to accept tips, sell locked content, sell merch, crowdfund your project, create and distribute NFTs, and more. That's why Koji and their link in bio app store is a game changer. It's very cool. Use their locked audio mini app to sell live recordings, old demos, extended version of tracks, sample packs, loops, anything that doesn't live on Spotify or Apple Music. Use Sell a Service to sell remixing, beat making, marketing services. Sell bars as a rapper or remote record and editing services as an engineer. You can do this all right in your link in bio. Add a Koji tip jar or love jar to receive tips from fans and aspiring producers. Try their multiple DSP playlist embeds to easily display your discography. Releasing a new project, they've got incredible free apps to engage audience and build hypes, like their challenges mini apps where your fans can compete in video challenges you create. Or try their giveaway mini app where fans do promo for you on social media for the chance to win something. I'm just scratching the surface, so you should really go explore the Koji platform and their link in bio app store for yourself. It's free. Head to koji.to/music production podcast. That's Koji, KOJI.to/music production podcast. Other link in bio apps just send your fans to links on the internet. Koji keeps everything in one place so your fans stay engaged with you. Set up your free Koji account today.
The more limits that you put to yourself while doing it, and it's interesting because I'm saying break the rules, but set yourself some limits while you're doing it. Again, the more focus that you get, and this reminds me another things that we did with the trainers, that we had the operator challenge, and I don't know if you know about this one. I gave them like a challenge a week to create a track using only operator and nothing else, no effects, nothing, and you're not allowed to resample. You just have operator. That's it.
Wow,
and this was hardcore. And people were writing, "Can I use some effects? Can I use some reverbs?" No. And the things that they brought, oh my God, we had I think we had Mel from France, and she actually made a reverb sound by layering multiple instances of operator. I heard sounds that I never thought that will come out of these things, and that was the limit, and then breaking the boundaries in order to achieve the results. And you can also find that on the SoundCloud, the operator challenge.
Okay, cool.
Also,
we'll have to put that in there too.
Wow, dude,
that's a fun one. No other effects, because as soon as you said that, my mind started going like, well, how would I get like a delay if I wanted a delay? Well, I can really do delay by making another operator happen a little later and a little quieter and just repeat that.
Exactly.
And again, I think you would find interesting sounds that way. You would just do things you wouldn't normally do, because sometimes we do have an easy way to do some of these things, and it's easy to just grab it and throw it on there. Sometimes going the long way does something interesting.
Yes. And it's a journey, though. In sound design, it's a journey, and you know that. These tiny steps that you're taking while doing something, tiny steps, you go forward until you have something meaningful, and then you can go from there and say, okay, now I have this, and this will be my baseline. Another thing I do, I never go back. For example, I used to do before, doing something. Let's say I'm making a bass line and I'm using a synth. I used to freeze and flatten it because I wanted to save resources. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I used to be frightened from that. I thought, I can never go back. I can never. How can I change it? So first of all, you can save it and save it under a number, which I always do. I just save a number, go on, and if I have some crazy things that I'm doing, crazy step, which I'm freezing and giving it a name, and I'm writing freezing the bass. But I really try to never look back and just go on and go on and go on and freeze and flatten and do another effect and freeze and flatten and really come to the point where I say, oh, this is cool, and then stop there and then move on, and not to compromise on, okay, it sounds like a kick and let's just, maybe kick is not a good example, but like explore, man, just explore, just for the sake of exploration,
Well, how often has that backfired on you? How many times have you done that and been like, damn it, I've messed that one up. I wish I could go back.
It used to be, I think at the beginning when I started, I was like, oh, it sounded so great before, and now I just messed it up. And that was a lot by using synths, and just thinking, oh, but now I'm like, okay, if it's lost, it should have been lost. And I'm not even looking back. I'm like, okay, it was just on my path, and it sounded good. That's cool. It means that I'm on the right track. I think sound design, it's not, for me, it's not about let's make a piano. Mm-hmm. It's because a piano, you can just grab a piano, which sounds great, and here you go.
It's a lot easier to just grab a piano.
A lot easier, exactly. Yeah. If you need a kick, make it, go and grab a great sample, and here you go. For me, it's a lot about create yourself, create a new thing, create a new color, blend the colors, and see what happens, and then it's yours. And I think these are the people that are the most successful in the music business. Those who bring new sound and are just not lazy. They're just let's do this. Let's try. Let's explore. Let's enjoy sounds. And this is Radiohead. If you talk about Nine Inch Nails, there is a huge, really cool band that also was a milestone for me. Fear Factory, if you know them. This is the first time I heard metal with synths, and it was real metal, real like the distorted, very flat, very metallic kind of sound, but with some electronic. And we also had in Israel, I was like in a very famous rock club, which was at this time in the 90s. They had one evening in a night, and the title of the evening was Death to Techno. That was the name of the evening. And it was like, it's absurd because, you came there and it was really like fusion stuff of electronic and metal, and it was to show that, that you can, and that's the game, like death to techno, like death for death music, like black and death and all of this kind, and then techno, and then you got amazing music. This also really opened my horizons big time. Big time. From fusions comes the most interesting things. Like when you blend stuff, things can happen. You can be like, wow, that's, and it never ends. Again, we have so many people in the world. We don't have the same person two times, and that's also really, really remarkable. Some people reminds one another, but we don't have the same person. Which means there is the potential for each and every one of us to bring a new sound, to bring something new. Even if it's your own voice, it's different from someone else. And even if it's your story, it will be different from someone else. Think about it. That's just mind-blowing. And it's connected to music.
Definitely.
That's all.
Yeah,
And
well,
sound.
embracing that idea has helped me a lot. This idea that I am unique and my voice sounds the way it sounds, and the songs I make sound the way they sound. And it's very easy to compare yourself to other things that maybe you look up to or you want to sound like. But letting go of that and just taking it for what it is empowering, because you don't have to do anything to get that. It's just you.
Exactly. Yes. And it sounds like a cliche because it's like you have it in yourself, look it in you, just be yourself. It sounds like something people said millions of times to you, right? but it takes work. It takes time to really think about it and say, hey, I have something to say, and I am different, you know. And I think the danger, if we can say it like that, is just to look on the stuff that you like and try to imitate that and try to be that. It will never work because you can never be that, because you're yourself. But you might feel frustrated because you're not reaching that. And once you realize that you have something different to say, and you need to, you can try to go to that way, but you will create a new things eventually. You will create something different, and it will just be your own interpretation, just like the Beatles, just like Hendrix, who heard, he really liked Dylan, you know, and I don't hear Dylan in his music.
No,
I hear distortions.
But you almost do actually when you listen to him sing. He has that kind of like...
That's true. You know,
but he did the covers too. But
you see, it sounds like a mutation of Dylan.
I needed him I needed to hear him say that though, to know that. I wasn't like, hey, this sounds like Bob Dylan. Like, it's the last thing in the world you think. Absolutely. But when you hear him say it, you're like, oh, like almost like when you drink a wine or something, they say, you know, there's a little bit of chocolate in there. Like, you know,
I love that.
I don't know how to. All wine tastes the same. Everything tastes the same to me. I'm, you know, but when you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of tell it's there. So I think
I love to hear bands and try to figure out what did they hear without them telling.
That's fun.
Like if you hear Dream Theater, you really hear Rush in their music all the time, because I'm a huge Rush fan. And you really know that they liked it. And then to hear them say that, it's really cool, you know, and they're not too far away from that. Still, they developed it and gave something to it, but it does sound a lot like Rush. Then you go back to Rush, and then I'm like, once I know that, then I go back to their influence and try to go back and see what was the source, in a sense, you know, the source, what started this whole thing. And the most interesting things are people that started a new movement, a new thing, like let's say Pat Metheny, for example. He was around Jacko. I heard him talk about why he came about of inventing, you know, this sound of the guitar and all this. And he said, I was just around people who invented sound all the time. So I thought, this is something I have to do. So I figured, okay, I need to do that. And then he did it. And, you know, he's like Pat Metheny today.
Right. Isn't it funny how a lot of times these people that do these amazing things are so like, it came about so casually. Like, well, I was just, that's what we were doing, you know? And that's what, you know, my friend did that, and the guy I listened to, and she's the one that thought of this. And I was like, well, I better think of something. And there they are.
But if you hear most of the songwriters of the most beautiful songs ever written will tell you it was casual. They just did it. That's even more mind-blowing than anything. It catches, and they didn't even think about it, just did it, and they were really casual about it, and it just came out. And that's when you let go, and I guess when you're in your zen point or whatever, and you don't think about anything else, you just let go, magic comes out. This is why I really like to play with people and jam sessions. And
that's authenticity, right? Because you're not,
absolutely,
you're just letting it happen. You're not forcing the square box into the circle shape. And
absolutely.
And that's authentic. And we're drawn to that.
Yeah. I really like to, when I create music, I like more to play than to write. I find it sound different to me. I know many people that write, and it's just really cool. But for me, I need to be physical. I need to touch the sound. I need to touch it. And when I touch it, it just sounds different. And
I'm that way too. I mean, I never learned music reading and notating and all that stuff. It was always playing my guitar until I came up with something I like. And then maybe you're playing with other people. And you were going to say, like, that's the fun of playing with other people, because you do get that like spontaneous sudden thing, like, oh, that's the beat you're playing, well then I'll change this a little, and I'll put the accent there with you. And and those things just start coming out naturally. But the guys I play with right now, that's how we come up with all our songs. We just start playing, and somebody gets on a riff or beat, and then we just all, okay, that's what we're playing. And it doesn't matter if it's the silliest thing you ever heard, and you just try it. You just see what happens, and it's so funny how often something neat and interesting happens, even if it's not a whole song, even if it's just a little idea, chord change, but it's like something like, we can use that, we can take that.
There is something very interesting in people. There is like, it's really interesting in people jamming. It's also, I feel about it a little bit like sex, you know, because you have people and you have chemistry between them, and they're blending with each other, and they're communicating in another level, which create amazing things in many times. If they really know how to play, or they have good chemistry between them, it creates magic. It creates something out of the blue. And if you're smart enough, you will record that and listen to it later and grab parts out of that and build a song out of that, because that's where spontaneous comes, you know. But it's very much like sex, because you don't talk with them and you're doing something together, and something come out of it which makes all of you feel like, whoa, what was that? Did we do that? And you need those 3-4 people in order to create this thing. You can't just do it alone or with one of them. You need this formula of these 3-4 people. And this happened to me when I had the jazz drum and bass band, and things just came out.
Drumming,
and
right? And that's
yes, yeah, I was drumming. Yes, now I don't really have time for that, and we stopped that. But we were like 2 years or something, and it was completely improvisation. And sometimes it's great, sometimes not. But sometimes it's just mind-blowing stuff that comes out. But that's when you listen to the person playing and you react to that and you feel like talking. And you're not saying too much. Sometimes you're just listening, you're absorbing, thinking about it, and then saying. It's like you said, I'm just putting something there, see what they say, and then they come back to me with something, and then we go from that. That's another level of existence, I think, playing. Being able to play. But just to say something about this self-taught thing, because for me, for example, music theory was like the forbidden land. Like it was for me like something that I never want to learn, because I thought it's going to mess up my creativity or some bullshit like that. And it took me like 30 something years to wake up and say, hey, I think it's interesting, this thing there, this music theory that people talk about. And I discovered that it was just my teachers. You know, the teachers, they are so important. You know, if they don't give you the love while they're teaching you the thing, you will never get it, even if it's a great thing. So my message will be to the people that are listening to us right now and are weak at music theory or afraid of that because it sounds like theory, to give it a chance and to look for good teachers. To look for there is a saying, I think it was Zakir Hussain. You know this guy, the tabla player. They have a band with John McLaughlin, Shakti, the really good band. I think he's the best tabla player in the world, Zakir Hussain. And then he said, because you learn tabla in India, you don't just go to a teacher and say, hey, I want to learn tabla. Maybe now you do, but if you want to go to the masters, there is some kind of a ritual. You go there and you're their butler for some time, and you live with them and you help them. And some now and then they will throw you some bones, you know, like, hey, look, you can do this and that. And if they really like you, then they will teach you, and then you will become, you know, a master. And when he was talking about it, they were also talking about that the student chooses the teacher. It's not the other way around. It's not like someone will be there and the student will come and it will immediately be a chemistry and will work. It needs to be that the students really chooses the teacher in order to be, you know, to get to be free or to maybe unleash things that will get him stuck, and just to be absorbing information. So there need to be the appreciation from that side, and not all teachers are meant for all students, So so don't give up. If you feel that it's not working, then look for another teacher. It's not, most of the times it's not the material, it's the one who delivers it that influences the way that you're going to feel about it. And
well, I totally agree with that. Yeah. When I was in 7th grade, there was like a general music class, and I hated it. I really did. I wasn't musical at all at that point. Like I listened to music. That's about it. But it wasn't until just before 9th grade, so a little over a year later, that I started playing guitar and was fascinated, and life changed, and that was the main thing I cared about ever since, right? So I was ripe, I didn't know it myself, but I think if the situation was different, and maybe it's the classroom situation, I don't want to say it was the teacher necessarily, but it didn't get me, and I didn't enjoy it at all. But the circumstances changed a little bit, and suddenly I'm all in. And I do think, the way you're introduced to things, schooling, sometimes just, sitting in those desks in the rows, like we're like writing notes on music, and instead of playing or experiencing it. That's how the class
Absolutely.
was. We had notebooks out, where we probably should have been like dancing around the room first, and here, grab the tambourine and hit it here. And that would have probably been so much more fun and brought us in. But, it just didn't happen.
Some teachers do that, they're like going a little bit out of the box and gives you, like shows you really interesting things. But there are not many, and I really don't believe in one size fits all. That we need to sit on the desks, and this is the way we need to learn, and everyone needs to learn the same. It's just, let's face it, it's just a practical way of educating people. You put them in a room, and you have one teacher, and you have, let's say, 30 or 40 people. It's just a mess, you can do more in less. And it doesn't mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that you can learn necessarily. And it's cool. I wasn't so good at school. I came to school. I really tried. I didn't like skip classes or something. I really tried. Music is something that I knew since the day I was born. I knew this is something I need to do. I knew it. It just and it's really funny because I was like a baby. I knew it. My parents knew it. They're not playing. I mean, my mom is an artist. She's a fashion designer many years. But it's just something I knew that I'm going to do since I remember myself. I knew that I'm going to be a musician, and music is going to be the major part of my life.
Do you think having a mom that was... sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask you.
No, it's okay.
Do you think having a mother in a creative field like that, with that artistic side, played a part in that? Is there some parallel?
It might. She was really famous because she made clothes for all the famous people in Israel. And she was really like really big. I remember going to school and seeing her picture on the paper, with this and that. And as a kid, my mom knew that I'm into music, so she hooked me up with the artists to just go on stage and sit there, just on the side of the stage in a huge festival, just be on the side and listening to everything and looking at the drummer and looking at the guitar player. There's something it stayed with me. And I remember feeling that, being on stage. Every time I went to a concert, I was always jealous at the people on stage. It's really funny. Always jealous. And I felt weird about it. I was like, okay, you need to enjoy this thing. Why are you jealous in there?
I get a little bit of that. Anytime I see a concert, it's kind of, I kind of wish I was up there. I wish I could play.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? I think we just want to be loved. That's the thing. You just want this love from people, you know. You want to be there on stage and get recognition, and that people will say, I really like this guy. He's great. I think this is what most of the people want. Also, if we talk about artists and musicians, they're looking, first of all, for the recognition. They're looking for someone which will tell them that they're doing good, that they're doing great. And if they can love them, that's even better. If you look at all of them, they're just looking for attention and love. That's all. And it happens to do with music, which we don't need to survive, but we still do it. And if I will tell you that you can never make music ever again, you will say, hey, it doesn't really worth. I don't know in your case, but I don't know if it's like, like worth living without any music, not hearing even music. Like it might be a bit drastic, but let's say there is no more music. I cannot even imagine a world without it. And it's not something we need in order to survive. Again,
but the love is, really, right? Like
the love is, exactly.
And, that connection you get playing music with other people, there's something to be said for that. And I know when we got locked down, I went many months without playing music with anybody, without really seeing anybody, when we finally got together and played music with some friends, it was just like, oh, man. And the hang of it, just getting together. And we're together, we're laughing, it's easy, it's not a lot of pressure. It was just like, what a relief, just to have that. And, the music was the vehicle that brought it there.
One of the coolest things I discovered in the lockdown was an app called Gemulus. Gemulus, which you can look it up in Google. It's like a bunch of servers which you can connect to with your sound card, and you can jam with people all over the world.
And it works well?
And it works great.
The latency?
Has some okay. You have some,
of course,
and it's better if you jam with people in your country better than go, I don't know, to like the other side of the world. But hey, it was real people, and you're playing, and people are there, and it was wow. I remember it was like, so I know the feeling that you're describing. It was like feeling this vibe, this ping pong with human beings was important. So yeah, I wonder where the world is going, but I'm sure music will make it better. I'm sure. Music and art, and look how long we didn't have culture stuff. And what I think this is like one of the reasons that we have this mess all the time, that things are getting like intense. We didn't have, like a theater and shows and all of these things which we need as human beings in order to
just get
inspired.
Yeah.
Exactly. We didn't have it. Bars, restaurants was like, and I think it reflects. And once you have it open and everything it will be better, I think. When everything will be like, just go out, have fun, festivals. Summer is coming, maybe, maybe.
Yes.
But if we talk about this, things, it's all cycles. Like there is a really interesting book, but that's like a business book. Ray Dalio, I don't know if you know this guy. Interesting guy. So he has a book about how everything is in cycles. You have empires, and then you have a war, and then you have maybe some kind of a disease, and then you have inflation, and you have bad times, and then you have great times, and everything goes up, and then you have, it's like a circle all the time. And it's interesting because it's true. And he went back 500 years ago, and then you see that it has really a pattern. It's always the same thing, always the same. It's interesting. So things are going to get better. So really we need to take these times, and we need to use it in order to make something emotional and do the stuff that we love, like music. Get in the zone, if it's with headphones or whatever, and try to use these emotional times in order to deliver an emotional package in form of music. Because once you do that, you will bring a meaningful thing, which you cannot get if you're just happy, and everything's great.
Yeah.
So use it. That's my message. Use this.
Yeah, adversity does do something positive for you. It does build strength and resilience and an appreciation for when things are good. And how, if you've seen like friends of yours for the first time in months, how nice is that compared to if you could just see them all the time?
Exactly.
You really have that appreciation. And I hope that all the adversity of late will, pull us together in some way too.
For sure, because we're gonna miss the good times, and this will be our motivation to go back to it. But we need to use the tough times, especially if you're in the creative side of the world, and you want to deliver something or to create something meaningful. Use the emotional times and go to your tools, go to your music, go to live, go to FLs, if it's Logic or whatever. These are just the tools. But try to connect to your heart, concentrate on the hard times, think about it, and then create music. And then you will be amazed of the things that comes. I see things that comes in at our school, and I'm blown away, really. From people that say, I didn't really feel like making music. It was a hard week, but I did anyways. And then you hear like something new, something really interesting. I also believe that the sad songs are the ones that have depth, because if you say to someone, hey, I'm happy and everything is great, it's like, okay, cool. But if you say to someone, I'm sad, there's a story there. Then it's like, why? And then you have a story, and then you're telling something which will be, it will have ups and downs, and it will have a character, and something will happen. So you can use that. So use everything you can, and connect this feeling to the tools that you have, and give it a musical meaning. Give it some kind of creative product, let's say. Which you can then be proud of and present later on. It can be a snapshot of these times, which you take with your music. If you will create music right now, with how you feel right now, you're capturing the moment, which can live forever. And I think it will be really smart to do it and to use the tools and do it.
I like that way of thinking about it. You're capturing that moment in time. Also, it's a little freeing too. It helps me get away from perfectionism too much. Like it's just, no, that's just where we were. That's where I was. That's what I was going through, and that's how I felt. And you also said like your student might say like, yeah, I didn't really feel like doing it. I feel that a lot, and it's my favorite thing to do. But it's easier to when I'm tired or it's been a long day or I'm stressed. It's easier to lay on the couch or go through the phone or do these like more passive activities that I don't have to really think too hard about. But the rewards are so much bigger. I don't usually come away from scrolling on my phone for an hour feeling better. In fact, it's usually the opposite. I wasted time now, and I got to see how terrible everything is and how angry everyone is or something.
Yeah.
But putting that time in to the music, to the art, to the work of that kind of thing just can really pull you out. And a lot of times I find it's just the first few steps that are difficult. It's the getting up, going there, turning everything on. But once you get to that, if it's what you love to do, you inevitably start finding something cool happens. And you're like, oh, that's exciting. And then things start moving along. It's a great way to pull yourself out of like a tough time or a rut.
That's for sure. And also, you need to remember that time never comes back.
Never comes back.
So if you're burning your time with something not so meaningful, which we all do, let's say we all do, and the fact that we're scrolling because we're drawn to that. It's like a system that was built to make us want to, and because we're social creatures, it's a social platform. which built on top of that, on exactly that principle. But this doesn't stay. If you're scrolling and you have like an hour of just doing nothing, you don't even remember this hour, which means this hour was burned, and that's it.
Yeah, just lost.
And it doesn't mean that you have to force yourself all the time to music and you cannot have fun. But having fun is one thing, and losing time is another. And I think you should really look at how much time do I have left? Let's create something with that. Let's be creative. Let's make something which will stay. I really like, for example, to gather all my ideas while I do music on live or whatever, and export them and just collect them inside of a folder, which I have on Dropbox. Okay, so wherever I am, and it's wave files. Like I have the whole song, I just bring it to a point when it's like 1 minute or even 30 seconds of the idea.
Right.
And I have this idea bank, which I can always go to when I'm on Dropbox or whatever, or the roads, and I can hear my things. And I hear them, and this is how I choose what I will do. Or like I have this musical world which is there, which reminds me all the time why I'm here, what I'm doing, what I like to do, and what my passion is. And this is something which helps a lot while you're scrolling to maybe go for a second to Dropbox and maybe hear some vibes that you did and remind yourself what you like so much.
It's a great idea.
So yeah, it's a great.
I like to try to get things at least exported, so if I'm working on something fooling around, like you can leave it in, say, session view forever, and you can jam on it and play your little sessions, your scenes, and mix your clips. But it's nothing you can export. So if I am working on something, or even I'm just fooling around, jamming one night, I try to at least export it so I can come back to it and hear it. And it's not just lost in the nothingness of your computer, because you have all these files on your computer, but they don't take up any physical space. But having this thing that you can come back to, it's so much more likely I will come back to it if I do that.
Yes.
If I don't, then
and you
I
need
just
to give it a name.
Forget. Give it
you
a
need
name.
to give it a name. You cannot call it 11334. It needs to have a name, and then it will be a person. It will be a body of something, Then it will be, it will have the right to exist. Right. In a sense.
Even a date for me helps, just because it was that day of my life. But you're right. There is something about a name. There's, once you give it a name.
I used to do dates. Yeah, I used to do dates, and then I was playing with bands, and one guy in the band said, "Hey, just give them names, man." And once I did that, I understood it. Even if you call and just give it a name, you don't need to think too much. You can call it I don't know. The sun is shining, or something that made you feel something. With time, I'm giving them a bit more meaningful names in order for me to understand what it is, like a guitar blues or dark, I don't know, so that I will have a little bit more of how it sounds before I'm even pressing the play button, just in order to know which type of colors I'm having there. But this gives the whole work that you did a purpose and a meaning. Otherwise, you just fooled around and made some sound. And it takes it, and it's like you say, you need to export it. If you export it, it's something already, which you can use.
Well, that's like the first thing they do if you're like, they tell you to do, like if you get kidnapped or something, or like if there's like a hostage situation, it's tell them your name, like your family, your life. Let them see you as a person. Is it like, because just an individual with no name, it means less, right? So you're in a more dangerous place if you're just a random person, right? Like we see random people on the road all the time, and people giving each other the finger and stuff. But if you stepped out of your car and said, "Hi, my name's Brian," suddenly I'm a guy with a life, and somebody gave me a name, and we treat each other so much different when we understand, like, oh, that's Johnny, she's this person. Once we have names, we're humanized, and
excellent, yeah. But also the story. It's not only the name. Once we have the story of the person, then it's a different ball game, because then, oh, okay, there is a story here. And he has kids and he has a wife, and then you realize, oh, it's a chain of a family that came before, and then it's like, and think about it, it's every person on this universe, like on this world, like they all have a story, right? And it comes to it's like I said, the song doesn't have any reason to exist if it doesn't have something, a name, a wave, whatever. I also think there's a lot more chances that you will finish it, because you don't need to open live, and you don't need to open the session just to hear it. You have it as something that you could just flip through, especially if you want to make music, I don't know, for commercials or something like that. And someone tells you, hey, I really need hip hop, something. And it happened to me a lot that people say, hey, we need something like Daft Punk, and we need it in the next 4 hours. And then I'm flipping through my things, and I have something which sounds a little bit like what they want. And then I'm working on it, and then I'm sending it, That's like, but even if it doesn't have a purpose, it's still time that you invested in creating music. Don't let it go to waste. Of course, sometimes it needs to be practice as well. But you can even take the practice, something that you just did by fooling around, and give it a meaning. And something nice will come out of that. Many songs that I did came out of a practice. I wanted to practice something specific. I was watching maybe a tutorial, and they explained something there, and I was trying to do it, and I stopped the tutorial, and I just made a track. Which then came to a label, and something happened with it, and I didn't even plan to make a song. And this brings me back to the spontaneity that we talked before, just letting go. Because I didn't had an address to this song, I didn't said it needs to be this at the end. This allowed me to be free and just fool around until I had a meaning to the thing, which then became a song. And yeah, I think this is where we need to be, and just be free, not even think about I need to create this type of thing, because for me, almost 100% of the time, when I said I want to create this, it comes different, and I'm sure for you as well. You want to create something specific, and it goes completely the other way around. You didn't even plan. That's because your brain is doing something different than you're planning, which is also another part of the magic. That it's your heart, it's your brain, it's many things. So interesting. We need to make a podcast about the brain and music at some point.
Yeah,
music and the brain. So interesting, man.
Wow. It really is. There's so much.
Wow,
it's so mental. Everything we do with it, it's amazing. It's nice to have techniques and all of that, but it's a mental thing. I really like having some sort of idea when I go to make music, but like you said, it doesn't always turn out that way. But it's just the fact that I have a place to like shoot my arrow. It doesn't matter if I hit the target, because there's targets everywhere. I might hit the one 4 targets down, but at least I'm going somewhere. And then I might start it out.
It's a guideline. It's a guideline.
I think I'm going in this direction, but then I'm like, oh, actually, I'm going here, and this is nice too. And when you're trying to be too specific, like it has to be exactly like this, it's frustrating more often than not, and not as satisfying as kind of like you said, the journey. Like I always think of it a lot of times as like an exploration.
Yes,
like especially doing like sound design stuff, it's like I'm exploring. Like I'm somebody from like the 1400s getting on their boat, and let's see what's beyond the map here, and try to write the map for everybody. That's a part of music making that I really love. Is just that's why playing with other people and just jamming and seeing if we can make a song out of this thing that just popped out of one of our guitars is possible, because it's who knows what we're going to have, because it didn't exist a second ago.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. But when you do your packs and your sample packs, like do you do you sit and say, okay, I'm going to make an 808 kind of thing today, or you're just exploring, things come out, and then you just put them in a group and you give them name? Maybe take us through this process of how you make a pack.
It definitely depends a little bit. But I would say a large portion of the time I do have sort of a theme, and I might not know where it goes. Like I did one that just pops in my head right now. I did called micro cassettes. You remember those old tape recorders, a real tiny cassette that you can record your ideas on? They sound terrible, they're noisy. They actually pick up the sound of the motor inside. So it's always like, and it's really tinny. But I wanted to just record a whole bunch of instruments with that. I played guitar, I sang, I played piano, synthesizers, and just put them in sampler and see what I get. So that was like the theme, is I'm going to have all these like really kind of like, in all honesty, they're like terrible sounding recordings, right? Like the tape isn't stable, but when you put it into sampler, you start stretching it out. Maybe you filter it a little, and you put a little reverb here and have a little movement, and it's like a world opens up. And then then it's just, what can I do with this sound? Each sound then becomes like its own little exploration. And once in a while, it's like I'm trying to build something specific, but it's usually a loose theme, and then let's see what happens. See where it goes. What kind of sounds can I get out of this?
And you're using only the built-in instruments of live, or you're just using whatever? Like it can be each,
I usually stick to the stuff that's in live, so that people can use it. Because if I make something that requires that you have this plugin also and that plugin, then that totally
No, but
limits.
if you resample, let's say you have a patch
that's
and you
different.
resample it.
Sure. Yeah, I've done that too. I've run it through effects and resample it.
Okay.
I do like the challenge too, the limit. I mean, how many plugins are there? This is the other problem we were talking about. Like, there's how many distortion plugins could I pick? There's a million.
Yeah.
So I do like the challenge of just working with what's inside live, because there is so much good stuff. And a lot of times, if you know how to put them together, you don't need half the stuff that you could pay money for.
No.
And sometimes they're nice the way they're built, and they do something a little different. But when you build your own like audio effect rack, that's a string of different effects, and maybe there's like 2 chains that you're blending together. Like, that's your thing now. You made that.
Exactly.
And it's got its own quirks and personality. I'm always trying to achieve,
do it. Yeah.
The main thing is I want to do something that's like unique and has character. That's it has to. Like if I'm just like, if I had access to some beautiful studio with some amazing grand piano, I'm probably not going to do a piano instrument, because you already have that.
Yeah.
And other people have been so meticulous. Like the grand piano inside a live is beautiful. You can get Spitfire is doing like that stuff. I can't compete with that anyway. So I recorded my 100-year-old piano that's in my house. That's all quirky and a little bit out of tune and makes noises. And that's different. That's got personality.
Yes, exactly.
But it has to have personality.
And it's unexpected. Unexpected. It's not a normal standard thing. Yeah. And it's out of the ordinary, which means it will trigger the listeners. Once you do that, it will trigger listeners. If it's different than what I know. Yeah. Absolutely. I think every musical instrument has emotion at some point, because you always have the potential to create music with it, which means it has some kind of a spirit in it. Even if it's a software, it was meant, and this is something I felt when I bought my hardware synth. When I got it and I hold it in my hands, I felt this was made for music. It felt so. It looks very, very mechanic, like some sort of a machine. It's not like a guitar. You're holding a guitar, and it's like wood and everything, and the strings, and you see it and you realize, okay, this is like the neck and everything, but this is a machine that was built for music and for sound making and exploration, and it's so much potential in this thing which was made for that, and it made me feel so inspired without even turning it on, and just for the potential. And then of course doing stuff with it and just flying. And I really I don't really like to read manuals and like to dig too much into but when I bought those, I really digged it, like Moog, I really sat down and read each and every function of this synth. It was so interesting to know about.
All
so
the
interesting
care they put into that too.
Wow. Yeah. It was so, first of all, it wasn't like a thing, like when you buy it, the way that they pack it, the way that you receive it, the way that it looks inside, like they thought about everything in order to make it an experience,
right,
in order to feel, it has some, even a little bit of a religious kind of feeling, like you're getting a holy thing. It looks so meticulously nice. They thought even about the packaging, very, it's not about the money, it's about the thing. It's like a living thing, which is something I didn't really felt before when using software. Like it's a living thing. And such an experience. It's so interesting. And plugins, just to say something about plugins, you can achieve any sound building your own plugins. Like, you can achieve any sounds. Stuff that you cannot really achieve are the modeled things, because they were modeled upon hardware thing, which is, like it's a real thing. But even different SSL desks are different. You're modeling one, but each and every one of them will be different because they're just built differently and they treat electricity differently.
They're real objects that age differently. And
yeah, exactly. And you have different type of wood which will resonate differently in different rooms. So there are so many things to think about while doing those stuff. But character in your music, that's the most important thing. And you do it by adding noises and all kinds of things which are not really music, but you make it musical. This is also something nice to know about, that you can fill your music with sounds, sounds of the streets, sound of motors, sounds of electricity, in order to not to make it too clinical, too clean. Because we never hear music in total silent, almost never. You hear it on the street, you hear it on the bus or whatever. This will bring it closer to natural as possible. And people like natural, people like stuff that they can relate to. So the more human you make it, the more chance that people will be drawn to it. It's also something physical that we have in our brain, because we're looking for the same species in a sense. We're looking for things which are like us. This is like automatic something that we have, and we can achieve that through music. You can make sounds which are human in a sense. How do you make it? With randomization, like putting like chance, probability a little bit, and putting noises. There is a really nice thing that I like to do. I like to put phaser on white noise, taking white noise, putting phaser there with the LFO and make it do shh from one side to the other through the whole song. Very quiet. So you don't really hear it, but you feel that something is there. Right. It's not empty. And once you turn it off, then you're like, oh, it's gone. Now I hear it, it's gone. Many things you don't really think about, but they're there. And you can fill your music with stuff like that. That's a really cool thing.
I've got
mixing.
That's the Moog MG1 Concert Mate. Realistic. It was like a Radio Shack Moog. And now I think Cherry Audio, has a really nice plugin of it. But the one I have, when you move those faders, the filter sometimes cuts out and all of a sudden it's wide open and then it comes back in. It's broken in a lot of ways. But it's, when you play that thing, you're like kind of like massaging it. You're like, all right, buddy, we're going to do, okay, easy. It's alive. It really is.
It's a living thing. Absolutely.
I love the way it like screws up. It's just so cool. And also, I have a tape machine here, and I'm doing these songs with my band and listening to a track, and we were just like, I just want to hear what it sounds like if we record it to the tape and bring it in. And
Interesting.
once we did that, you get the tape hisses in there now, There's a little bit of compression that happens sort of naturally.
Yes.
And you lose a little of the high end, actually. It gets a little softer. It's not quite as crisp and precise. I don't know if this makes sense, but it was like all of a sudden now, instead of like standing in a room with my shoes on and everything, I was standing in grass. It had like a fuzz to it that it just like little hairs or something, or like it's so hard to put my finger on. But when like the band kind of drops out a little bit and there's more silent moments, there's something else there. Kind of like what you said with the phaser. Like it's not just the clinical empty silence.
It's the room. Yeah, it's the room. It feels like you're in a room. You're in a place. Yeah. You're in a place which has character, and it's not like a emptiness. Because the brain is really hard to trick. Listeners, even if they don't make music and they don't know anything about music, you cannot trick them. They will know immediately when something is wrong, which is also very interesting. They wouldn't know how to call it, and they would say a good song or a bad song because they don't really, they can't tell you, like you have too much 5K, or you have, you don't have so much low end and it sounds really dull. They will just say good song or bad song. That's the chances you have. Good, bad. That's it.
It's not right. Something's wrong.
But this is what I was talking about at the beginning, that they just get it as a whole. They get it as a thing. At the song, that's it. They don't care about the bass, don't care about the melody. It's just the song, which is interesting. You don't need to tell them, listen to the whole thing. It's this. This is how they get it. It's because we have this tendency to group things. We always group stuff to make sense out of it. If you put dots and you will just spread dots and you will let people look at it, they will always look for forms. It's something that we just do. And I think this type of physiological things about the brain is worthwhile to know about when you then go and create music, because then there are more chances that you can orchestrate, a play of sounds, which can first of all touch more people as possible, and the emotional impact will be 10 times bigger than just making music the way that you feel. And this is something that people like Hans Zimmer, for example, know a lot about. People that make music for film. Right. This is what they always do,
They're only thinking about emotion.
Only. But they have picture, they relate to pictures. Right. They have already the feeling, and they need to relate to that feeling. But what's really interesting, I think it was in Interstellar, nobody told him what the movie is about.
Oh, yeah?
They just told him, "Hey, write something," and I think they didn't even tell him emotional. They just told him write something, and he didn't even read the script. Nothing. He just made something, and then they told him about the script, and then he moved it towards that. And Interstellar soundtrack is wow. It's
I don't think I ever saw that. I gotta check it out.
Oh wow, man. Such an emotional piece. And then he said that it's something he thought about his son, because he and his son, they're not really getting along or something like that. He has an emotional package there, and he wrote it to his son, and it's such an emotional piece. And this with a movie, you know what? I'm not sure if it was Interstellar or the other one with Matt Damon on the moon, on Mars.
Oh, I saw that one. I know you're talking
Martian, I think. The Martian or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the Martian.
He was growing potatoes in the...
He had like a greenhouse out there. He got stuck.
Yeah, it's that one. That one. They didn't even tell him about that it's on space or something. Just told him basically nothing. And the recording was like a pipe organ in a church, or really interesting... way of producing. Man, that's... Dude, we can talk about it like for hours and hours and hours about music, physiologic, and the brain, and sound design and sound, the way sound control our lives. We all move by sound, and we're lucky that we can create sound. You know, we have the power to create sound in a musical way. That is so cool. This is.
Yeah, we are. And it is, you know, I spend a fair amount of time trying to figure it out and learn it and how to do it and unlock it. But there is always just some weird mystery about it. And that's the beauty of it, is that it's, I know I'm never going to figure it out, but every time I learn something new, it's like, oh, you know, like, and now I can use that. And then it leads you to something else where you're like, well, what about that? Like, what is happening here? How did this work? It's
funny.
The magical thing.
The reason I started it, my goal was, because I went to, like, as a kid, I went to music shops when they have some synths, and I remember playing with them, and the sound would go away. And I was like, hey, can you help me here? The sound went away. And I remember the feeling I had. I felt so embarrassed. And then I said to myself, I want to learn. I want to make sure that the sound will never go away, that I will know what I'm doing. That was actually my motivation. And it's funny because this was really something I really wanted to know in order to be in control and to make sure that whatever happens, it will never go away and I will be helpless and I will need to ask someone to come bring the sound back. And that's really, really funny. So it comes to what you said, that I will never figure it out. But it's great that we can never figure it out. You know, it will always has the potential to surprise you. That's the magic. It's so much fun. Hey, sound design. What's better than that? I mean, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, let's say to get inspired and to get surprised. It's a very important thing in music. Is to surprise yourself and to surprise your listeners. There is an interview that was made with Sting. I think it was in Rick Beato channel. He interviews Sting, and Sting talks about the importance of surprising in his music. You know, he's playing a riff, and you have a riff in the song, and at some point, you know, when they come back to the verse, he's not playing this riff. And you feel like he should play this riff. And then he said, on purpose, I didn't play it. I wanted people to be like, hey, but it's really interesting, you know, and to hear it from such a successful musicians that say that this is something they do on purpose. We can only learn from that, right? Surprise, like.
I've been meaning to watch that interview and the Pat Metheny interview that Rick Beato did. I didn't watch either of those yet, but
you should watch also the Al Di Meola. That's my favorite until now. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Wow, this guy! I'm telling you.
Am I mixing it up? Was it Al Di Meola and not Pat Metheny? I could be mixing it up.
That too. He did that
both?
too. We have that too. And the last one is Al Di Meola, which is a phenomenal guitarist, player, musician, person as well. Such a cool dude. Such a cool guy. I never thought about that. I thought, you know, because you used to hear their playing, and you have Paco de Lucia, and you have McLaughlin. They're always behind the guitar, and such a sweet guy, like such a cool dude, just to listen to. Such a friendly guy, which I think one of the best classical guitarists in the world. And he's playing all over the interview. Amazing stuff, which you're like blown away by what you hear. You really need to see it. And it's so friendly, you know, the way that they talk. It's like casual and laid back, and such cool people. In the end, we're all people, man. You know, we're all people. Man, even Frank Zappa, he was just a person. He was superhuman, but he was a person. Yeah,
it is cool. It's encouraging, you know, that we are mere mortals, all of us.
all of us.
Same 24 hours in every day, you know?
Yes, but some of us go a certain way and we're stubborn. And once you're stubborn, this is also something I learned from Steve Jobs. He's saying you need to love what you do in order to go through the tough times, because only crazy people that really crazy about what they're doing will go through those tough times and will still carry on. If you don't really like it, you will just go back and you will never make it.
Sensible thing to do.
And this reflects in everything. It can be music, it can be whatever. If there's something that you like and you really, really want, you just need to, just be stubborn. And if you're stubborn, you will do it. Just a question of how long. It has a price. And the question, if you're willing to pay the price can be time, it can be money, it can be doing this instead of things that other things that you need to do. It's about sacrificing. But if you really want it, you will get it. You will get it eventually. I believe it. Question is if you're willing to pay the price.
Great point. I think it's a nice place to wrap this up.
For sure. It was so much fun, man.
It was. I think we'll have to do another one at some point.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
It was really...
so I know we got your website. roydrums.com is one place we can find you.
That's my drums website. That's about drumming, But if you will go to drumnote.de, there is drumnoteproductions.com and there is drumnote.de for the German speakers, because I'm located in Germany.
Yeah,
that's where the school is, near Munich and in Munich as well. And and what I do is mostly coaching, like taking people and guide them through being able to make music they can be proud of, and bringing sense to their life through music, and reaching their goals, and understanding how to get focused in all this madness and all this tons of possibilities and things that you can do, getting the focus.
I think you probably bring a lot more than just the technical production stuff, based on talking to you today. I think that would be a nice aspect for students and people to experience when they work with you, is that you seem like you're bringing a little more than, it's a bigger picture you're painting here with people. And I think that's something that drew me into your work, just seeing what you've been doing.
Thank you very much.
It's been awesome to talk to you and pick your brain about that and learn from you. And you're doing cool stuff, man. It was a lot of fun, man.
A lot of fun. I knew that it's going to be really, really fun to talking to you, and it was really inspiring, interesting. I got also ideas while talking to you, and we should do it again. Exchange the ideas and knowledge and inspiration, and hopefully inspire others to go beyond. That's all.
That sounds great.
All right.
Well, we'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you all for listening. Check out the show notes. It's going to be a lot, because we covered a lot, and there's a lot of cool stuff that you brought up that I definitely want to have in there. So check that out. And we really thank you guys for taking the time to hang out with us and listen. Have a great day.
Yeah. Have a great day. Keep it up.